Immigration is a very interesting topic. And in most cases, when we talk about immigrant stories, we talk about the successes. We celebrate immigrants because we think immigration equates success. People leaving their homeland, poverty, war zones, and coming into a new country and making it big. The grass seems greener on this other side of the world. And we've seen a couple of immigrants that have succeeded. A lot of them actually, the likes of Elon Musk that left South Africa, became a Canadian, and today is the #1 entrepreneur of the year, the wealthiest man on earth. The likes of Albert Einstein from past generations, even Tope Awotona from this generation, and so many other immigrants that have been globally recognized for their achievements. However, we do have a couple of immigrants that are actually struggling abroad. Yes, let's talk about that. When you ask most immigrants, why did you choose to leave your family, your friends, your culture, weather, to come to a new country and start all over again? They'll tell you for better life. Now, better life is subjective. It could be education, infrastructure, security, or economy, money, dollars. But then, is it truly greener on the other side? Obviously, success means different things to people. It could be being able to put food on the table for your family. It could be having your own startup company, or even being a mother to 2 healthy children. When you mention struggle, people think you're ungrateful. As an immigrant, they think you're complaining. You're expected to do your best. You're expected to achieve success. Be a go-getter. Have that entrepreneurial spirit. Doesn't matter if you're not getting paid well for your work or you're being offered underqualified positions. You just focus on surviving. So in today's video, I've taken the responsibility to bring to you some of the reasons why people find it difficult abroad. And this really is part of the reality, because there is no success story without a struggle, without obstacles on the way. And life in the abroad is no different. First of all, I want to trash the expectation that if you become an immigrant, you're supposed to be more successful than every other person that you know around you or that is back home. It's just scrap that out of your memory if you're putting such pressure on yourself. The first struggle on this list is divorced marriages. First of all, in Africa, divorce rates are low. It's not as high as this part of the world. And you see couples coming to a new country in this part of the world, and they are finding it difficult to maintain their marriage, to keep their marriage. Now, it could be that the man is finding it difficult to adjust to the new system because, yes, it's different from back home. The wife is suddenly more aware of the rights she has as a woman, equal rights, women's rights, the opportunities that she has to be able to provide financially as well for her family. And some men don't like it here. So there's that rift. There's that belief that immigrants are go-getters. They make it work regardless. While you're juggling that 3 to 4 jobs just to make ends meet, pay your bills, put food on the table, and save up a little portion of that pay to send back home to those you care about, probably also squeezing a side hustle. Even though this hard work is applaudable and completely understandable, you gotta do what you gotta do. The point still is, this is no sustainable way for anyone to live. And whilst you might be able to get away with doing this while you're much younger, as you get older, you realize you can't keep living that way because your body can't feel. And this is a tough pill for older generations to take, especially when you're immigrating into a new country in your old age. I mean 50s and above. People that are 50 and above struggle more with adjusting into a new environment because of the capacity that is required for them to succeed. Most immigrants have responsibilities back home, people that believed in them, supported them whilst embarking on this journey. And some of these people depend on them. People would put themselves through the harshest and toughest conditions out there, send it back home to their loved ones because, yes, their families might be struggling back home. But then there's been instances of people back home also misusing these gestures. These harsh working conditions are more likely in cases of new immigrants. Raising children and its associated cost is another struggle. For children born to first-generation immigrants, they can easily relate to this because, yes, parents come here saying they want a better life for their children, and genuinely they try their best to provide for their children to ensure that they get the best care they can. But then the compromise comes from working so hard. Like I said, people can can be juggling 3 to 4 jobs, and in that case they tend not to have time for their children. They leave their kids at home. They don't have enough time to go through their homework with them because they are exhausted from their job. If they have any social issues that needs to be discussed or worked on, all that can easily turn into neglect. But then some children are generally more understandable and they tend to cope and appreciate what their parents are doing and just, move along and cope with the situation. Others, maybe not so much. Some would be seeking attention, throwing tantrums, developing bad habits, and being difficult children to their parents. Even though you have social help from the government, good education, good teachers at school, some of these kids, all they need really is the attention from their parents. And then it still falls back on the parents to have to deal with that reality. Another reason why people struggle here is because of debts. Yes, people have accumulated debts even from the process of immigrating. People borrow money from friends, from families. Some people even loan money to be able to travel abroad in the hopes of being able to pay back that money once they start working abroad. People having to pay back their debts that they've accumulated, and that way they are not able to save money towards any financial goals or financial freedom. Once again, this is mostly short term and it doesn't apply to everyone. Which leads me to the next point. The illusion. Living abroad feels good, especially on those sunny days. Emphasis on sunny days. The system is more organized, developed. It feels like there's money everywhere. It feels like you have money. Think about it. You have a credit card. Your worst enemy. Credit card is your enemy and it's your friend. But a lot of immigrants don't understand the credit system. For African immigrants, we are not used to that. And a lot of other immigrants actually are not used to that. They don't have that system. So when you come here, you have to re-educate yourself on the system and how it works, especially when it comes to accumulating debts from credit cards and how to use your credit card. It's easy for immigrants to quickly get excited and distracted with the credit card. Every card that is being offered to them, they receive. They take and spend. And then they realize they're in debt and the interest rate is high and they're paying off their debts, but the interest rate is high and the debt is more than they ever thought or ever spent. And it's just building up into this roller coaster of debt. Obviously, not everyone is in this mess. There are people that are financially prudent and they don't have to deal with things like this. But then the biggest problem with immigrants and the way they use credit cards or accumulate debts while they are in the country, even though they are working, is because of their lifestyle preference. People love to live above their means. People love to show the world that they are in a better place. Getting a house they can't really afford, going for frequent shopping and travels, all those things that make you look good. And with the advent of social media, the pressure is getting worse. We can't deny the way of doing things here might be a bit different from where we're coming from, especially when it comes to the routine. So here, things feel monotonous, and that in itself begins to become a struggle because people are bored. They are literally bored of living the same routine of going to work, coming back home, going to work, coming back home, maybe go to church, go to the store to buy groceries, come back home. On very few occasions have social interactions, especially with COVID. Friendships have become so difficult and people crave companionship. People crave their community, and it's an unwritten rule that people naturally just draw towards their communities more, towards people of the same culture more. Yeah, you just find people sticking to their clusters of communities, and at the end of the day, people still want more. They still want to feel more of home, so they miss home. They crave for a bigger community. It's just part of the reality. So that's why you find a lot of immigrants like to travel back home for maybe holidays once in a year. Let me just say, a huge portion of the money they've saved up that year working hard, they take it home, have fun, enjoy, spend it, and come back to start the circle of working all over again. Did you know a lot of immigrants actually have to start all over again when they move into a new country? Yeah, that in itself is challenging. Just picture it out. A doctor that was well known in his country, developed great at whatever he's doing, but thought about it like, my wife wants to go to Canada and I don't want to be left here and I want our kids to go as well. So let's all move to Canada as a permanent resident. It comes to Canada and it can't work. Can't work as a doctor. Start all over again, change career paths, start doing menial jobs as Uber driver before he's able to sit down and go through nursing school and become a nurse. Or maybe a personal support worker, and it's just the reality. People often change career paths. I've had friends that were studying English in Nigeria, came here, became tech bros, tech sis. Well, people change careers. For most people, they don't care. They just go with the flow. But for a couple of people that are quite passionate about what career path they are on, this might be a hard pill for them to take, and they can become unhappy or resentful at whatever jobs they are left with. Option obviously would be for them to go back home, but that in itself has a lot of buts. Okay, there are buts to why people can't just go back home immediately. It could be shame, it could be debt, it could be anything literally. It could be that they are still hoping that these new environments will bring them more opportunities. Or it could be them just biding their time, wanting to experience this new environment for a couple of years before they pack up and go back. And the last thing I want to touch on is language barrier. You know and I know that we all have different accents. Depending on your culture, where you're from, you have an accent. Now, let's talk about accent. Let's not even talk about English language, because obviously for most developed countries, the official language is English. So if you're coming from a country where you speak English or you have basic English knowledge and skills, it wouldn't be so difficult for you to adjust into the new environment. You might have to take more classes, you might have to just practice better, and it will get better. But aside the language in itself, the accent is still an issue. No matter how good your English is, your accent will always come through. It's thick. When I started working here as a customer service, people would call in and I'll be excited to pick up the phone and help them out. And I'll be like, welcome to blah, blah, blah. How may I help you today? In my clearest, most friendly and slowest voice. And the customer would just go, oh, you have a very thick accent. Can I speak with an American? Trust me, there's no way I'm making this up. It was the reality. And this is me coming from Nigeria, where the official language is English. So I speak very good English. The only thing is the accent is different. And there's nothing to be ashamed about when you have a different accent. The most important thing is you being able to communicate clearly. So there is that shame sometimes associated to people's accents because it's different and you have to repeat yourself like 100 times sometimes for people to understand you. Like the conversation doesn't go natural, it doesn't flow well. This is not to blame those other people for not being able to understand you, of course not, but it's just the situation of things. And then you realize that that could kind of push you away if you're not careful from interacting with people, going out of your comfort zone, going out of your community to reach out to others and make new friends and just, explore in your new environment. Your accent reflects your culture. Your culture is part of your identity, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I do agree that people should speak as clear as they can, just to make every other person's life easier. So if you're going into a new country and the language is Russian, learn Russian as much as you can. You have to be open to learning the language and improving on your communication skills. If not, it's really going to be hard being an immigrant. If you're watching this and you're thinking, well, why can't you just go back to your country? Stop being an immigrant. We don't need you here, blah, blah, blah. If you have such mindset, may I just remind you that immigrants actually contribute a lot to a country's economy output. Really, let's start from there. A lot of jobs that indigenous people born in that country cannot do or are not willing to do, immigrants take it up because we have that mentality. We have that spirit to survive. We have that motivation and that courage that things will get better. The struggle of being an immigrant is real, and while it might take about 5 to 10 years on an average for an immigrant to settle fully into a new country, I hope this video has clarified the confusion, if you have any, on the reality of being an immigrant, but also spark a ray of hope in you that things will get better. The struggles are there, and and they might be there for a very long time, but it gets better over the years, especially with the right information and strategic planning. The struggle will be worth it if you think it's worth a try. I hope you've enjoyed this video so far. This is Tinuola, and on this platform we share valuable beauty and lifestyle content. I'm all about making you look good, feel good, and live your best life. In this corner, we don't strive to survive, we thrive. So if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do so. Give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it so far, and if you find it valuable, please share with your family and friends so they don't miss out. I'll see you guys on my next video, but in the meantime, I love you and keep your light shining. Bye.